get down.
大家好，我们是鸡汤来了团队。那我们团队在做的事情主要是在做家庭教育。
我们其实也有线上提供一些内容和互动的测验。那内容的话，主要就是比如说在我们网站会有很多的专栏，那这些专栏会比如说有我们对原生家庭梳理的问题啊，或者是我们在爱情里如何看到原生家庭的影子，这相关的内容。
那其实就是参加样飞计划里面有一个很重要的部分，就要跟国际组织交流跟连接。很多组织他们都走比我们更前面，因为我们访问了很多都是超过40年或60年以上的这种家庭服务机构。那我觉得这些组织有帮助我们看到一些就是未来的展望性，这样子也让我们比较确立说，哦好，那我们在做的这条路上是算。
The world seems to be different. No pedestrians on the street. Where are the people? Do they stay home just like her? But she can't do things well. She can do nothing. Hey, now we have more time together. But why are you still unhappy? I have to do something.
Is to think how to make the epidemiologic knowledge, the physical distancing.
I have to let you know, although the distance between us is further than before, our hearts can still be closer. We can learn how to focus on the things at the moment. We can learn how to gently communicate with others. We establish a new kind of partnership. We fight against the pandemic together and live the life in a new normal. Since we can't choose what kind of world we would like to live in, just make a change. Join the 2021 Global Youth Trends Forum. You can face the impact of COVID-19 with the global youth and keep the world moving.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ho Tai-jung. The COVID-19 vaccine can help prevent infection, severe illness, and death. Many countries are working hard to raise COVID vaccination rates. However, in some countries with rising vaccination rates, cases and death rates have not always fallen. As an important reminder, do not lower your guard after receiving your shot. Prevention is just as important as vaccination. There's no shortcut. Whether or not you've received the shot, please wear a mask, wash your hands, and follow guidelines. We must continue preventative measures to ensure everyone's safety and safeguard the nation's health.
那时候参加的是青年所的海外青年志工的计划，因为那一次海外青年服务去当志工去见习的经验， 让我看到一些 role model， 然后也发现一些对于我自己来说未来更多的可能性。所以我觉得你现在还没有办法决定，可能是因为你接触的事物还不够多。既然你不知道，那不如就给自己一个机会，让自己出去看看或走走。
那时候我刚好发现青年署那时候有一个暑期攻读计划，它正好是跟我很喜欢的这个立草编织相关，因为我本身是念设计。透过这个计划，可以让一个年轻人他很深入的去了解一个地方，或是了解一份工作，他可能在做哪些事情，所以我觉得都是一个很好的尝试的机会。
那个时候决定去走路环岛，给自己一个大的壮游。也许是我们的教育环境，让你在教室做了很久，做了5年、10年、20年。如果你的过去都只被关在那个教室里，我鼓励你，这会是一个蛮好的机会。如果你愿意的话，你应该认识这块台湾，这块土地。
我觉得创业带给我非常非常多的快乐，跟非常多的挑战。比如说，像我们现在服务就是在做婚礼服务嘛，完成一个完美婚礼是非常大的成就感。就像当时我也不知道说，原来今天的我们是过得幸福快乐，然后把自己的幸福分享给更多人。
我觉得担任咨询委员最重要的，绝对不是那个头衔。绝对是你在这里面当中感动的画面，跟让你记下来你为什么去思考你想要做这件事情，也会让你成长很多。那这个过程当中全部都是非常无价的。
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The forum will begin in 2 minutes.
在去发展东木新的这项各式的行动的时候，就会觉得自己慢慢被充实，觉得自己的灵魂也慢慢的越来越接近自己的族群。
如果有这种梦想，想说要回家返乡，回到自己部落，回到自己社区的年轻人，你要持之以恒，一定要坚持。我们一直都在回家的路上。
The Global Youth Trends Forum is a grand event gathering the youth from around the world. We meet young people from different countries here. Learn and exchange ideas from each other. Shape the imagination and establish the prospect to the future together. You will see a whole new vision brought by the experts from various fields. You will be engaged in the debate with multiple viewpoints. You will obtain the unexpected energy that pushes you to grow.
Thank you very much.
Here, you can form your own network of global partnership. In 2021, we will be seeing each other soon. Watch the live stream, join the Global Youth Trends Forum, and speak out to the world.
大家好，我们是鸡汤来的团队。那我们团队在做的事情主要是在做家庭教育。
我们其实有线上提供一些内容啊互动的测验。那内容的话，主要就是比如说在我们网站会有很多的专栏，那这些专栏会比如说有我们对原生家庭梳理的问题啊，或者是我们在爱情如何看到原生家庭的影子，这相关的内容。
那其实就是参加样飞计划里面有一个很重要的部分，就要跟国际组织交流跟连接。很多组织他们都走比我们更前面，因为我们访问了很多都是超过40年或60年以上的这种家庭服务机构。那我觉得这些组织有帮助我们看到一些就是未来的展望性这样，让我们比较确立说，好，那我们在做这条路上是算是在走对的这样。
Everybody, please be seated.
那我们所关注的议题是青少年性健康，主要是透过1对1的线上聊。
distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the 2021 Global Youth Trends Forum, organized by the Youth Development Administration, Ministry of Education.
We are the moderators for today. I am Howard Chen.
I'm Catherine Lu.
Welcome, everybody. Last year, the Global Youth Trends Conference had to be online due to the pandemic. This year, we're happy to be finally meeting you in person and presenting the forum online at the same time.
The theme of the 2021 Global Youth Trends Forum is the impact of COVID-19 on global youth. And we hope to launch a new chapter for global youth stepping into the world. Experts, scholars, and youth leaders around the world will be sharing their experiences and thoughts and offering to the new insights to the whole forum.
Yes, that's wonderful. And due to the pandemic, foreign participants were unable to travel to Taiwan for the forum, but the organizers have gathered global youth leaders in Taiwan from over 23 countries and 5 different continents. The forum will also be live streamed on the Youth Development Administration's YouTube channel so that youth leaders around the world can participate remotely and engage in discussions. The live stream will have English audio with Chinese subtitles. Please feel free to share the link with all your friends and family. All you have to do is take out your phone, search up the Global Youth Trends Forum, and you can find the link on our pinned post on Facebook. Copy and paste it to your Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to share it with your friends and family. If the camera finds you, make sure to wave.
That's right. We're so honored to have youth leaders from all over the world today here at this forum. So we're so happy to see every one of you face to face, and we're so excited for the upcoming events.
Exactly. Next, let us welcome our distinguished guests. Please give them a warm welcome. Former Vice President and Academician at the Genomics Research Center, Academia Sinica, Chen Chien-Jen. Welcome. Senior writer and English website editor at Commonwealth Magazine, Guangyin Liu.
And also, joining us online are delegates from international organizations. Now, please welcome founder of Learning Creates Australia, former CEO of Foundation of Young Australians, Westpac Women of Influence, and Order of Australia recipient Jane Owen. And also, One Young World Ambassador, founder of MindMapper UK, Top 10 Rare Rising Star, and Diana Award recipient, Meg Zeenat Wamithi.
That's great, we have them. And last but not least, please give a warm welcome to the Director General of the Youth Development Administration, Ministry of Education, which is also the organizer of today's forum, Director General Chen Xue-Yu. Let's welcome her. The forum will be on education and learning, social innovation, and mental health. The moderators will be leading group discussions on the 3 subjects in the sub-forum this afternoon. And first, let us welcome my humble self to be the leader of the discussion for social innovation. I am Howard Chen, the conference interpreter, and I'm happy to be leading the group. And I will be leading some of you for the discussion later on. And now, standing right next to me,
I'm Catherine Lu. I will be leading a sub-forum. The title is Mental Health in the Society and the Impact After COVID-19. So I'm so thrilled to be able to meet up with you face to face and have a great conversation. And also we have 3 different sub-forums. Next, leading up the discussion on education and learning is the CEO of International City Wonder Education Association, Sunny Yang.
Yay. Wonderful. With such an incredible lineup, I'm sure all our participants will be able to learn a lot from today's forum. Next, let us welcome Director General Chen Chien-Jen from the Youth Development Administration, Ministry of Education, on the stage for the opening remarks. A warm welcome to Director General Chen Chien-Jen for the opening remark. Thank you very much.
Academician Chen, former Vice President and a distinguished research professor at Academician Genetic Research Center, Ms. Jane Owen, co-chair and co-convenor of Learning Quest Australia and the former CEO of Foundation for Young Australians, Ms. Zeenat, Wamithi, ambassador of the One Young World and the founder of MindMapper UK, Guangyin Liu, editor and the senior writer of the English website of Commonwealth Magazine, distinguished guests and members of media, moderators, Kathleen, Howard, and Sunny, young friends from Taiwan and overseas, and the partners that are watching the live stream around the world. Greetings. The Youth Development Administration of the Ministry of Education began organizing the Global Youth Trend Forum in 2013, and this is the 9th year of the event. Youth affairs have become growing independent around the world, following the trend of globalization, and the opportunities for collaboration have also increased. At the same time, there has been a drastic change in the world trajectory, especially the recent pandemic that had taken countless lives and severely impact people's physical and mental health. People have been forced into social distancing or quarantine measures during the pandemic, which has been a major challenge to society. However, the pandemic has also led to an increase in citizen participation and the rebuilding of social support systems, creating a force for supporting one another. Due to the impact of the pandemic, we not only invite the youth in Taiwan to the forum this year, but also many foreign young friends who are studying or working in Taiwan. Along with live streaming, the forum brings together the youth from around the world to discuss the impact of the pandemic on younger generation. We hope that this platform will continue to create opportunities for the youth around the world to interact and engage in exchanges. We also hope that the youth can break down barriers between regions by sharing their experiences related to international trends and further exert their influence to create positive momentum in society. We believe that the experiences from pandemic will toughen the youth around the world and make them strong for the future. In response to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, the theme of the forum this year is the impact of COVID-19 on global youth. We invite renowned experts in different fields to speak at the event, and also youth from numerous countries across 5 continents to share their experience, discussing the many experts impacted by the pandemic from an international perspective. We hope that participants will see how youth in different countries respond to challenges and think about how to work together to endure the impact of COVID-19. I would like to thank you again for participating in this event. I believe that the activities today will help the youth better understand the challenges and the opportunities brought by the pandemic, so that they will ponder on how to break new ground during the pandemic and gently create a friendlier and open society. Let's work together on the path towards sustainability and happiness. I wish everyone fruitful results and good health, and for everyone to have peace and joy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Many events has been impacted by the pandemic, but by adopting this online-offline model, the Youth Development Administration Ministry of Education has continued to encourage young people to stay up to current trends and also to stay up to the latest current events around the world to ensure that everyone have this platform to interact with one another with global youth under this pandemic.
Exactly. And thank you once again, Director General, for starting the forum with incredibly motivating remarks. That's true. We hope that everyone can continue to build their experiences throughout the pandemic to help them face future challenges. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on, I'd like to ask everyone to remain seated with their masks on for our photo session. The photographer will be taking the picture from the stage.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the media will now be taking pictures from us from the stage. Let's give them a little bit time.
Yes.
So that's their official photographer will be taking pictures.
Yes, it's very important for our socials, so I know.
Please look into the camera.
Yeah. Yes. Our staff members are handing over some play cards for you.
And in order to include everyone together, please, participants from both sides can squeeze together, joining in the middle.
Yes,
so everyone can be pictured in one photo.
Yes. Table 10, 11, 12, please, yes, move to the center.
Let's get cozy up together.
Wonderful, I can see your radiant smile with your mask on. So your smiling eyes, we can see that.
Thank you so much.
Youth ideal, your idea. We hope that young people can galvanize their influences and change the world through international exchanges during the global pandemic with the shared objective of creating a future together.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
All right, thank you so much. Now we will be commencing the much anticipated keynote speeches from our panelists from Taiwan and beyond. So if you're watching this online on live stream, whether it be Facebook or YouTube, right now you can share your thoughts, your comments, or just share this link. And you can use this hashtag, Global Youth Transforms. And feel free to share this link with your families and friends so we can gather more thoughts together so they can also engage in our following up discussion.
Yes. First up is our former Vice President and Academician at the Academia Sinica. Dr. Chen Chien-Jen. Please give him a warm welcome.
As a public health expert here in Taiwan, former Vice President Dr. Chen Chien-Jen was invited by the U.S. to attend the Global COVID-19 Summit on September 22nd online. And now we will be hearing from him. Let's give him a round of applause.
Yes. Thank you very much. Director General Chen, dear colleagues, and also the invited speakers online. It is really my pleasure and honor to share my view on this impact of COVID-19 on global youth today. May I share my slides with Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Today I'm going to share with you the successful COVID-19 containment and reform of resilience Taiwan model. Oh, no. Oh, okay. Yeah. As we all know that the emerging infectious diseases threaten human health and sustainable development significantly, and catastrophic COVID-19 pandemic originated from Wuhan, China, in December 2019 is a good example. Over 236 million confirmed cases and over 4.8 million deaths by now. And there are two phases of COVID-19 containment. The first phase is the transmission interruption through pharmaceutical intervention before November 2020. After the vaccine was available, and then we get into the second phase of this pandemic control. May I have the next slide, please? Okay, as you can see on this slide, that's according to the report of U.S. National Bureau of Economic Research in October 2020, Taiwan was regarded as a nation with the lowest COVID-19 mortality and also the lowest GDP loss. In other words, Taiwan is the only country among these 40 countries with the positive economic growth. Next slide, please. In Taiwan, the successful COVID-19 containment model includes prudent action, rapid response, early deployment, transparency, public trust, and solidarity. And more importantly, a lot of young people are engaged in the COVID-19 containment as well as economic revitalization in Taiwan. Next slide, please. And we were severely affected by the SARS in year 2003. After the SARS outbreak, Taiwan started to reform the epidemic prevention system in Taiwan, including the amendment of the Communicable Disease Control Act, reorganization of Ministry of Health and Taiwan CDC, and designation of healthcare institution to function as the responding or isolation hospital, and enhancement of hospital infection control, as well as the standardization of the communicable disease surveillance and reporting, optimization of border quarantine and home isolation, as well as the recruitment and training of infectious disease specialists. We also established our National Health Command Center and promotion of epidemic prevention, R&D, and also engaged in international collaboration. Next slide, please. And it is very important for us to prepare for any pandemic. And the containment of COVID-19 pandemic in Taiwan started very early. On the December 31st, 2019, our Taiwan CDC officer are aware there's a cluster of atypical pneumonia cases in Taiwan. So we started our containment effort. And this including this, we sent a reporting email to WHO and China CDC, try to confirm the clustering of these cases. And we started on-board quarantine of passengers from Wuhan on December 31st. We strengthened the suspected case reporting system, hospital infection control, and then we organized the advisory committee and announced there's a level 1 travel alert for Wuhan. And that's 2 weeks before the first case came into Taiwan. And our President, Dr. Tsai Ing-wen, held the emergency meeting of National Security Council on this 22nd of January last year, and activated the Interministerial Central Epidemic Command Center. This is 1 week before WHO announced there's a public health emergency of international concern. Next slide, please. And I think there's the one thing that is very important for the pandemic containment in Taiwan is the rapid response and precise response. I always say that this containment is a precision containment. We did not lock down any city. We did not do mass screening, but we used a smart technology to do this prudent surveillance using this ICT and AI technology, rapid announcement of traveling alert using cellular broadcast, and we use the e-quarantine system for the border control, as well as use this ICT information and big data analysis to do this in-depth tracing of cross-contact of this confirmed cases. We also enhanced mandatory home isolation using this digital fencing tracking system and line bar system. We engaged in precision testing of reported cases. We also mobilized the healthcare system and the isolation treatment for cases using this big data monitoring. And we also use disinfection and delivery robots. I would like to thank all these young people that engaged in this smarter technology, in the ICT and technology, as well as big data analysis and so forth. Especially our minister without portfolio, Tang Feng, she's doing a very good job for this digital containment of this COVID-19. Next slide, please. And in order to share the transparent epidemic situation, our CECC tried the best to provide this transparent information as soon as possible. And there are 5 important elements. That's the automation, real-time, transparency, visualization, and cooperation. Next slide, please. Any inbound passengers get into Taiwan have to fill out the e-report, and all this information, including the history of TOCC, means that's traveling, occupation, contact, and clustering. And then all this information will linked with National Health Insurance Medicare. So every physician, when they get on their computer, they will know that the TOCC of their patient immediately. Next slide, please. And this is very easy to identify any possible contact as well as potential cases. So I just mentioned that every inbound passenger has to use this QR code website form to report the health declaration and best information. And then we set up the tracking system of disease control for the symptom report and information management. And we set up the e-fence system for quarantine monitoring system. And we use the line bot to provide a quarantine care. Next slide, please. And anyone who left out of this so-called e-fence, then an alert of a small message will be sent to local authority, and the local authority will send the officer to do site visit. Anyone who left out of this e-fence will get a fine. Next slide, please. And of course, it's very difficult to stay at home for 14 days. So we provide care and support services for isolated. Sorry about that. Okay, good. Thank you very much. We provide that meal delivery, garbage collection, settlement arrangement, family visit, as well as this transportation to this for medical care. And as you can see, we also provide epidemic compensation for every quarantine or isolated people. And through this way, a lot of this quarantined or isolated people comply to the regulation very well. Next slide, please. And as you can see, in total, by this June 13th of this year, more than 700,000 people has been quarantined or isolated at home or the quarantine place, and only 23 of them, that's 0.03% comply to the regulation. In other words, more than 99.7% of quarantined people stayed at home or quarantine place very well for 14 days. They sacrificed their 14-day freedom and in prayer to assure that everyone in Taiwan can work normally, go to school normally, and live normally. Next slide, please. And we also have this tracking system of specific confirmed cases. And when we can identify this under the hot zone of a specific confirmed cases, and then we send this warning message to all the people who went to this place at a specific period of time. In other words, we use this way to remind those who visit the hot zone to take care of their own health. Next slide, please. Of course, everybody argues about this privacy and also the human rights of these contact information-based measures. And the government clearly informed the public before we implemented this kind of measures. All the information collected were kept only for 28 days and only for the purpose of epidemic prevention. And when we engaged in the contact investigation, the officers has a responsibility to protect privacy and also to protect security of the data. Next slide, please. And this is a trade-off of privacy and disease control for the public good. So we have to adopt the principle of proportionality. So in a very vibrant democratic Taiwan, we definitely have to let the people know beforehand and then assure that human rights is totally protected when there's an epidemic prevention measures were implemented. Next slide, please. And early deployment of COVID-19 containment is very important. I know that a lot of young people have been affected during this outbreak. So, and the DCC held daily press briefing to announce transparent information, health education, and risk communication, and try to resist the disinformation attack. And we try our best to provide adequate supply of personal protection equipment and other medical materials through mass production and name-based e-rationing. We also enforce the non-pharmaceutical intervention using online education and self-broadcast. And we provide financial relief and economic stimulus using this e-allocation. And we engaged in the research and development of rapid diagnostic, antivirus, and vaccine. And fortunately, among the three vaccine companies in Taiwan, one of them already get this EUA, emergency use authorization of this vaccine. That's from the Medigen. So, and we also engaged in the international collaboration on the technology and research on PPE, pharmaceutical, and technologies. Next slide, please. And for example, we organized a national mask team, and we requisitioned of 73 factories to expand the 92 production line. And this face mask production per day increased from 1.8 million in January up to 21 million in May. Next slide, please. In addition to the mass production, we also use name-based distribution system to assure that every people in Taiwan can get a face mask at a very low price using our national health insurance card to do this kind of name-based distribution. Next slide, please. And President Dr. Chien-Jen also considered that in addition to epidemic prevention, there's an economic stimulus is very important. So the government allocate around $840 billion for this epidemic control, financial relief, and economic vitality. And I believe that this is a very important procedures. When we have the outbreak, we have to prevent this the transmission of the virus, but more importantly, how to maintain this economic growth is very important. Next slide, please. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. With regard to the financial relief to the damaged industry, as we all know that COVID-19, although it affects our life, but COVID-19 accelerated digital transformation, and this online consumption increased 1.8-fold. And there are some shocked industry, including the transportation, tourism, physical entertainment, and physical retail, as well as food and beverages. And all these shocked industries were supported, financed by this government. Of course, there are also so-called bonus industries, that's including this healthcare and epidemic prevention industry and otaku economy. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, nowadays, a lot of people work from anywhere, from home or from this coffee shop or somewhere, and we have a lot of online meeting, and we even have this online B2B marketplace. And all these efforts, fortunately in Taiwan, we have many young people. They are engaged in this kind of online industry business. And next slide, please. And today we are talking about this online learning and distance education. And I knew there's a lot of teachers in elementary school and high school. They are very good at this kind of design of the e-learning and also there's e-education materials. And we also have this online exhibition. Next slide, please. And for the recreation and for the exercise, we have online video streaming services, indoor exercise or somatosensory game, otaku economic online shopping is become more and more popular, and the food delivery, e-commerce, and online game, and as well as there's a live stream and streamers. And these days, and the young people, they have very good innovation, and they create different kind of business model. I think it's really wonderful. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, and we provide financial relief to low-income families, and we support the low-income families, especially the families with the children, disabled person, or the elderly. And we also issued economic stimulus vouchers to every citizen of all ages. And when we closed down the school for 2 months, we provide the subsidies to all school children. Through this way, we try to help young people to make their family life better during this outbreak. Next slide, please. I think this Taiwan value is the democracy, transparency, and solidarity. I just mentioned from the very beginning of the epidemic, the government has ensured that the public has open access to COVID-19 information. And CCC held a daily press briefing since January 2020, which generated accurate news across a broad spectrum of media outlets. And CCC quickly established its authority and earned the trust of the public. And public trust has had a stabilizing influence on society and encouraging citizens to follow government guidelines and rules and making the public less vulnerable to disinformation campaign. I think it resulted in a virtuous cycle of good governance and good citizenship. The more public trust, the more people are willing to cooperate. Transparency, public trust, and solidarity are natural products of vibrant democracy in Taiwan. And during this period of time, I know a lot of young people, they are helping the government and the nation to fight against the COVID-19 and also try to revitalize our economy in Taiwan. Next slide, please. Okay, unfortunately, we do come across the second wave of our variant outbreak in 2021, and over 15,000 confirmed cases occurred and resulted in over 800 deaths. However, next slide, please. We announced there's a COVID-19 level 3 alert and on just May 28th, and all the schools were shut down. And this is the very first time we shut down the school, and for around 2 months. And as you can see here, there's all members of the public are required to wear a mask at all times except at home, and all the recreation centers and sports centers has to close down. Next slide, please. And fortunately, we contained the second wave of the outbreak within 7 weeks. Next slide, please. By now, as you can see on this slide, this is the cumulative confirmed COVID-19 cases per million people. Taiwan was the lowest among the 12 countries compared, and followed by New Zealand, Australia, and so forth. Next slide, please. And this slide shows the cumulative confirmed COVID-19 deaths per million people. Taiwan also among the lowest mortality country, next to New Zealand, Singapore. Next slide, please. And for the second phase, containment of the COVID-19, immunization is very important. Taiwan tried to get 45 million doses of vaccine to provide to its people, as well as the visitors in Taiwan. And we hope that by October 31st, more than 70% of the people in Taiwan will receive at least one dose. Next slide, please. Okay, and next slide, please. Okay, this last slide, I would like to remind everyone that infectious disease respect no border. Any pandemic or emerging infectious disease is detrimental to global health, economic development, social stability, national security, and regional peace. No country can fight pandemic alone. So transparency and honesty are very important. And we have to help each other through international collaboration, and which is the key for the successful containment of the future pandemic. Next slide, please. The last one is that for the prevention of the future pandemic, I think we have to bear in mind that we have only one globe, and we have to have this so-called one globe, one health theme. It means that we have to promote the entire health of the environment, of the human being, as well as the animal. Next slide, please. Every cloud has its silver lining, so I think that if we try our best to cooperate with each other and to use this modern technology and researches, as well as have a very good innovation, I think we still can make people living better in the future, even we have this future pandemic to challenge us. But I do believe we will get very well from our collaboration. With that, I would like to thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Chen, for the very comprehensive and insightful presentation. Thank you once again.
Next, let us welcome the founder of Learning Creates Australia and former CEO of Foundation of Young Australians, Jane Owen. Are you online with us? Ms. Jane Owen, welcome. Hi, we can see you now. Hi.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Wonderful to be with you here. I think I need to say is that good morning?
Yes.
Is that 搞砸? In the local dialect. Wonderful.
Really? So I come to you from Australia and Melbourne, which is the land of the Wamithi people of the nation. So warm greetings from us to you. And unlike Taiwan, as President Melbourne Island has the longest lockdown of any city in the world due to COVID. So we have been home for a very long time and a lot of online learning. So I am so pleased to be with you all together. I wish that I was there face to face and I could high five you all as I saw you all doing to each other earlier. But I wanted to share with you three really significant themes that have emerged out of COVID around the world for us to think about today, and some new and interesting, I think, developments first, I think is that we're talking a lot about disruption and how accelerated disruption has been in the world through COVID. Things that we thought would happen in 2030 have happened now in terms of work and the way we work and the way that our lives have been transformed. I would rather think about it as the age of imagination, and I encourage us today to have that mindset of imagination, opportunity, not just disruption and all the challenges and sometimes potentially difficult feelings that come from that idea of disruption. And the three things I'm going to talk about today are, number one, this idea of agency and how agency has transformed in our lives in the last 2 years. So many things that we used to do in one way have now been turned on their heads and really put into our own hands. One of the, of course, the most obvious ones is learning, and the idea of home learning has had very different experiences for lots of people. Some of you may relate to this. Some of you may know people that home schooling is a bit like this. But for other people, I think the idea that there is a lot of learning that's going on, people living in their own time and in their own way, has given them a greater sense of agency, although it's obviously been very difficult. At work, it's also been very difficult. Sometimes I like to think I'm the dog in the pink jacket, but mostly I think I'm the dog with all the grey crazy. And I love that Banksy, who's one of the famous graffiti artists from the UK, wrote this little Instagram page where he said, "My wife hates it when I work at home." And there are so many things that have happened that we've had to adjust to in working from home as well as working online in education learning. However, that idea actually is not a new idea. This Time magazine cover 2009 said this, that our entire work way of work is going to change, that we would have a different boss, that we would not be climbing a ladder so much to get new heights or huge goal in our career, but that we would have many, many paths, and that we may not even retire, but that we would get many opportunities to do things differently. So in 2009, of Time magazine, which of course is now very much our lived experience today. Of course, some very, very significant platforms have transformed the way that we learn. Now, TikTok, as some of you will know, is kind of started as a dance platform, but today, Learn on TikTok has had 40 billion downloads. So many people have used many platforms to learn and to teach themselves. Beginner on YouTube, beginner of something on YouTube was one of the most sought after search bars requests on YouTube for all of 2020. So we're in a very, very different world where our sense of agency and our ability to construct our own journey has been really brought to the fore in COVID. The second really significant theme I want to talk to you about, again, which has been emerging but has become very real in the last few years and very accentuated, is this idea of purpose and the focus on maybe always needing to think beyond ourselves. Our last speaker talked about the global environment that we're in, and inequality is one of the most significant issues in the world. And of course, we've seen it in many contexts, whether it's Black Lives Matter movements or whether it's actually even in the distribution of the vaccine around the world. But this idea that inequality is one of the significant themes we need to address. So also is obviously the planet, and incredible to see young Taiwanese people like this young man joining people all over the world, led by Greta Thunberg on Fridays for the Future. The youth movement for decades has been around the planet and school strikes and also saving the planet and sustainability. These are incredibly important front of mind issues that all of us, no matter who we are or where we live, are going to have to address.
Another big change, and that is going to continue to change, is the role of business. In the past, business obviously were very focused on their own reason for existence, which was really to make huge profit. And now businesses are being challenged and asked what they are doing to contribute to the world and to these global significant challenges that we have. And so we see mega brands like Coca-Cola and Nike and others now standing for social issues. Their staff have also pushed those companies to say, what are you doing for social change in the world? It's not enough just to sell your product and make enormous amounts of money. How are you making the world a better place? How are you contributing? And of course, young people themselves have now got a set of tools that no other generation have had to actually be the change that they want to see in the world and to drive change and to stand up for social issues. And many, many, many young people are doing that. I have spent many years helping young entrepreneurs, and it's probably been one of the most fantastic experiences of my life. And I'm so happy to see that obviously in Taiwan, as pictured here, you've got a startup scene, you've got young people that are setting up entrepreneurial businesses and social enterprises for social good. In Australia, I was fortunate to be with a program called $20 Boss, which is that little picture down in the corner, where students were given $20 for one term of school. And in that term of school, they had to turn that $20 into a business for people, planet, profit, and purpose. And at the end, they had to pay the $20 back to a bank so that the next round of students could get access to that. 99.9% of students paid the $20 back, and every student made more with that $20 in terms of businesses that they established for people, purpose, profit and planet. And thousands of students across Australia now are kind of young entrepreneurs. They're the next generation of business leaders that are coming to business and into community and into our societies. This is such an exciting time to be able to try different things and really chase and go after your sense of purpose, to live that sense of purpose through business, through social change, through standing up and using the tools that you have to have a voice. It's a very, very powerful and exciting time to be a young person in the world, I believe. And remember, there are more young people in the world than ever before right now. And so you are the rising star of the planet, really, and what is going to happen next. This young woman and helps us think about this question that we've had certainly in education in Australia, which is how might we better assess and validate and recognise what young people know and can do. We have a testing system that recognises the things that we've studied and the things that we have learned in all kinds of ways, but we don't have testing systems very much around the world where what young people do in entrepreneurship, what they do in their side hustle, as we like to call it, the things that they do in volunteering for the community. 250,000 young people in the UK, where Meg, who's going to talk next, comes from, volunteered to help the NHS through COVID. And there's no way that we have to recognise that volunteering and that support in articulating our education. I would like to see things like what Rajani Gibson, a young Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander woman from the Bundjalung tribe in Australia did, which is she knows that her tribe looks after this land that you can see behind you and these seas. And she was doing a course in drone technology at her school. And so she went to the elders of her tribe and said, could we use this technology to see beyond the horizons and continue to care for our land and our sea in a very different way? And the elders of the tribe said, absolutely. And so Rajani became the very first drone ranger in Australia, young Aboriginal drone ranger. And then she trained 8 or 10 other young people to be drone rangers. And they're now using drones to collect data and information about their coastline that this tribe has looked after for millennia, and sending that to our government science centre in a long way away, thousands of kilometres away, to share with others. And that is a beautiful example, I think, of purpose, education and learning, and a kind of a passion for using new technology to change the world and have a strong sense of purpose. The last theme is this idea of mastery, and this idea that actually when you are leaving your formal education is probably the most important time of your life. It is the next 7 to 10 years where you get the opportunity to learn, to grow, to be deeply curious, to hopefully find a mentor that will support you so that you can build your mastery in many things. This century, we're going to have to build our mastery in way more than the traditional things that we are taught in education. These skills, digital skills, creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and cultural competence, your ability to work with people all over the world. And remember, you know this and I know this, and we know people who are working in companies where they have never ever met the people from the 30 different countries that they're working with. And so your level of cultural competence and empathy and understanding of others way beyond our own cultural context is going to be very significant in this century. It already is. We're just going to see more and more of these things. When we did a huge research project in Australia, this is what employers told us that they wanted. They said, we don't really care what your score was at university or high school. What we care about is that you have these things, that you have deep digital skills, that you are creative, that you can collaborate with others, that you can think critically, and that you have cultural competence. We expect, and this is globally, that you will have 17 jobs in 5 different industries across your lifetime. You don't need 17 different degrees in those. We are now clustering jobs and careers. So in Australia, and I suspect also in Taiwan, as our population ages, as the demographic gets older, one of the fastest growing industries is what we call the care economy. So caring for others from health perspective all the way through to all kinds of care is now going to be 1/3 of GDP in Australia. So there may be many young people who go into that industry with one job and end up having many, many jobs in that industry. The idea of a portfolio where you're doing work for others, where you might be working for yourself on a kind of a side hustle, you might be working with some friends. This is all what we expect the new work order to look like. It's very different to your parents and your grandparents. We also know that what you do at work is going to change, and our research showed that we would spend much more time learning on the job. We'd spend much more time solving problems as automation and AI takes the day-to-day tasks off us and automates those, and we'd be much more involved in self-directed work, less management and less autonomy, and more agency. This idea of learning in the flow of work is a really new idea. Many people have been talking about upskilling and reskilling, and that is true. We need to upskill and reskill the workforce, but actually learning in the flow of work is much less about needing to go and upskill and reskill and get new qualifications. It's much more about how do you gain access to learning which is in your time of need, which is relevant and engaging and very accessible. And across your entire career, you're going to learn in the flow of work. It's a beautiful idea, actually, because the idea of joining up work and learning is a very powerful idea, and it changes the idea of education being a place or a space or a point in time in your life, and says that we're going to learn as we go and we're going to learn in flow. That enables us to be more creative, more experimental, and I think much more interested in many things. The other thing we're going to have to master is our minds and our ability to navigate rapid change in the world. The meditation apps, there was a 220% increase and download on meditation apps around the world last year. We are living in stressful, uncertain times, and being able to regulate, being able to care for ourselves, being able to look after our mental health and well-being is going to be key to our ability to navigate this very changing environment. And finally, how we live together has been absolutely transformed in COVID. Barcelona changed its entire 6-city street block, took out all the cars and turned it into bikes only last year through COVID. There are many changes. You, of course, have an incredible product in Taiwan that's gone global in a bike brand that has taken the world by storm. I think it already was, and now it's taken people and brought families together and brought the opportunity for people to be healthy and well because of COVID and not being able to travel and move around like you. But how we live in our neighbourhoods, our local experience of living with each other, and then our global experience of thinking about the what we want to have is probably where I want us to end. There is only one real question. It's not really what do you want to do with the rest of your life, and what job do you want, and what do you want to be when you grow up, which many people ask young people. It's really what impact do you want to have on the world, and how do you want to have that impact, and who do you want to work with to have that impact in your life, and think of yourselves as the true global citizens that you are. So agency, purpose, mastery are the three really big themes for the future now and next for young people in the world. And I know that you're going to master those in all that you do. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to speak with you all this morning from Melbourne to Taiwan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jing Owen. We appreciated your talk. Let us give a round of applause to Jane Owen again for her talk, and thank you for your sharings.
Yes. Our third speaker is an ambassador at One Young World and the founder of MindMapper UK, Zeenat Wamithi.
Influenced by her own experiences, Zeenat Wamithi founded MindMapper UK to offer support and services to young people. So thank you so much. We're so glad to have you here.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. If you can't tell, I'm from the UK and right now it is currently 11 minutes past 4. So if I'm not dedicated to be here, then I don't know what shows it. But thank you so much for having me, and I'm just so proud to see another platform there to represent young people's voices at a time where we need it the most. As mentioned, my name is Zeenat Wamithi. I'm the founder and CEO of MindMapper UK, the all-in-one mental health support for young adults across the UK. I'm also a global mental health leader, so I work with large companies around the world, from Clifford Chance to KPMG, from Amazon to Santander, helping them build mentally healthy infrastructures. And as always, a One Young World ambassador, making sure that young leaders like yourself are represented across the globe. Today, I want to talk to you about mental health mainly. We've heard a lot about education, we've heard a lot about health, but let's actually talk about mental health. As we know, the pandemic has made us all recognize how important wellness, how important looking after ourselves, and how important taking a break and rest is. And it's gotten to the point, so much so that when we're seeing statistics, we're seeing that mental health really was that silent pandemic. COVID-19 exacerbated a lot of those features and some of those symptoms around mental health, particularly for young people. Today, my talk's going to give you a bit of light around what that looked like in the UK, what my company did directly, my personal story, and how you as a young leader can champion your own personal story, transform that into an activity, initiative, a program, a collaboration, or a campaign, and make change. Change starts by doing something small, and it starts with you, and it starts with me. So what did this look like in the UK? Well, we noticed that the COVID-19 pandemic made younger adults feel a little bit more anxious and depressed. In fact, the age group that really struggled the most during this situation was 18 to 24-year-olds. And that looks at those that are moving away from primary education and secondary education into higher education. The main transitions these go through are through school to university and employment. As well as this, we noticed that the impact on young people's mental health was times 10 of those in other categories, but we also noticed that there was a distinct difference between those in emerging economies around the world and those from Western countries. We noticed that around all of the different issues that people were facing during COVID-19, mental health was actually the number one that seemed to be on the case of young people. When they would ask the question, what are they worried about the most or concerned about the most? Many young people aged between 18 to 24 answered that it was their mental health above actually the needs of their families. As well as that, we also noticed that there was a split between men and women. We noticed that a lot of men started to be a little bit more open about talking about their mental health, but mainly it was women that were trying to access services. We also noticed that mental health became a huge trend with media articles, with hashtags, with lots of different campaigns, as well as massive brands taking a charge on looking after mental health. Why did we see some of these things? So the main reasons why we saw this is a lack of education. There are still around a third of young people across the UK that do not know where to get mental health support. That means that when they are in a crisis, they don't know who to turn to and they don't actually know what's available to them apart from the NHS. In the UK, we have the NHS, which is our national body for healthcare. However, we also have private services that can look after your mental health. As a young person, you may be on a waiting list for over 6 weeks just to access support. So in that meantime, many people are left worried, concerned, and with nothing to go to. There's also those huge waiting times. As I mentioned, to bring this down into an actual number, there were over 370,000 children and young people. So that includes those under the age of 18 and those between 18 and 25 on waiting lists for over 3 months looking for mental health support on the NHS. One of the biggest services within the NHS is something called IAP, and that is something that when you are referred to, you are ending up trying to be on that list, and it does take a lot of time. We noticed that some of those numbers that we saw around people feeling like they couldn't get support is because of these stats and figures. And most importantly around this, which we often don't talk about enough, is the usual support pathways that young people actually access were affected. You know, there are a huge number of 18 to 25-year-olds, which we noticed through our MindMapper report, that say that they are more likely to seek support for their mental health from their friends and family, not the NHS or education. What that means is that with COVID-19, the ideas of isolation, being locked down, and having not that kind of routine of being in schools, universities, and education meant that the usual places that young people would feel safe to go to, they couldn't, which made the situation 10 times worse. So we conducted something called the MindMapper report. And the whole idea for this with my team was that we wanted something that was youth-led, youth-focused, but conceptualized the idea of what the real issues are with mental health. Not this idea that just, you know, mental health is a big thing. What were the actual causal issues that impacted young people's lives? Here are a few of the stats that we found out. When we asked young people, we conducted this survey with 18 to 25-year-olds. When we asked them what the 3 main issues that affected young people today, young people said that mental health was their number 1, financial issues were their second one, and a third one was societal pressures. Coming in quite closely within that, we had dealing with anxiety and depression as key themes within mental health. As well as that, within that kind of subgroup, because we need to talk about that intersectionality, because even within that 18 to 25, there are a lot of different subgroups within it. We found that the 19 to 21-year-olds, so those that are normally in university and after that higher education, were the group that were most likely affected by stress, anxiety, isolation, and depression. On top of that, we also found that 18% of those that took our survey mentioned that the current affairs, such as social injustices, which revolved around the BLM movement. And if you don't know what the BLM movement was, that was the Black Lives Matters movement last year in June and April. Capitalism, the climate emergency, COVID-19, and particularly in the UK with Brexit and a lot of governmental changes, government's ineptitude as a source of their poor mental health. These are amazing stats, but what do they really tell us? Well, they tell us this thing that we really champion as a company, which is that mental health is a symptom, not a cause. But what do I mean by that? What I mean is that mental health is something that is affected by all of these other factors. What I'm saying is that actually these factors in young people's lives can contribute to poor mental health. As you sit there right now, when you think about your own lives, what are some of the things that make you feel down? What are some of the things that make you feel burnout? What are some of the things that make you feel tired or anxious? These things for me could be around my education, could be around my job security, could be around my body image, social media and the pressures, but they could also be around stress. What we noticed during our research and what we noticed across the UK, some of the main things that were impacting young people's mental health ranged from loneliness, young people feeling worried about school, university in the future, supporting their mental health and well-being, social media and the news, poor employment opportunities or unemployment altogether, their own identities and how they champion their identities, finances, relationships, and self-esteem. But what did we do about it? As I mentioned, MindMapper is a company I started in my first year of university. After I tried to take my own life on my 20th birthday, after being turned away from many different services, although being proactive, and then though my story isn't unique, I decided that I needed to do something about it. My aim was that I wanted to ensure that no one at my university would go through the same thing that I did. So I started off a simple campaign with a couple of other students called My Mind Matters Too. And the whole idea was that I just wanted to tell the government that young adults, particularly between the ages of 18 to 25 years old, our minds mattered too. Moving forwards over these last 3 years, we've impacted over 50,000 young people across the globe. We've delivered over 300 different workshops, and we've hired and empowered over 20 different young people across the globe. As well as this, we've been able to work with over 25 different organizations, ranging from local schools, universities, corporate companies, but incredible brands. MindMapper exists to provide that intermediate between those platforms, between those services, between education, and also between young people to ensure that actually the services and the information is proactively coming to them and not them having to search tirelessly to find the right support. We ensure that we can be the matchmakers for mental health support to ensure that everyone, no matter where you're from, no matter how old you are, no matter what your financial status is, that you can access the right mental health support for you. So here is what we did during the lockdown. We created a mental health gym on MindMapper, and the whole idea was that we wanted to transform the way in which young people and other people felt around mental health. When we think about our physical health, mental health is no different. We all have it. But when we think about our physical health, we associate that with control and fitness and being able to train it. But we can do the same with our mind, so we created a mental health gym. We brought together young people from across the UK and actually across the globe from 5 different countries into a pilot group to test whether this would work. As you can see, one of the pictures at the bottom, we have a screenshot from all the lovely faces, but this all stemmed from that report. And as well as that, we tackled one of the big things that we felt like was one of the issues that young people were struggling with, which was social media. And we started to create social media for the good. We often talk about tech for good, but we should start talking about social media for good. We brought together world leaders, influencers, and created something called Tea for Talk, which was a safe space for young people to come to every week on a Wednesday to chat about what they were going through and to have familiar faces where they can talk in a safe space. We also created these Friday nights in with MindMapper, which brought together those expertise, breaking down things around identity, breaking around things around body image, eating disorders, men's mental health, sport and mental health, as well as education, universities and pressures around the world. And then to top that off, we decided that instead of young people going to find mental health support services and struggling, why don't we bring it to them? So we created a search engine that asked young people a series of questions and matched them to services and resources that worked for them. What we noticed is that actually By co-producing mental health support services and interventions with young people from the get-go, we get such a better response, we get a better intervention, and we also get a better sense of empowerment. And here is a few stories of what our young people themselves told us. Within this pilot group, we had young people ranging from 18 all the way to 30. We had young people from New Zealand, from Germany, from Belgium, from the US, from Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. And here are the things that they mentioned. For many young people, their mental health has been something that they've been working on for years, and it's been something that they have been actively looking for. We had Jararia, who had been going through and struggling with social anxiety for over 8 years, but couldn't find the right support until she came to MindMapper. Within MindMapper, we were able to bring her together with practical solutions, as well as allow her to meet new people to tackle her social anxiety in a manageable way. With Esther, we had someone who had recently been diagnosed with ADHD, was struggling to maintain her university studies whilst being in a global pandemic, but also struggled to find the right support for her. Being able to connect with a global community of like-minded people, as well as with a mind buddy that suffered from something similar to her, she was able to find the right support that worked for her. Her story is not unique. We had so many other people like this. We had Yana, who was a postgraduate. We often don't talk about how postgraduate university students don't actually have the access to support as many other undergraduates. She also moved to a different country to study, which so many of our users also had, which would normally have been a really difficult transition anyway. Within the pandemic, where you couldn't go out and socialize, you couldn't necessarily go home to visit family. This only exacerbated some of the issues she faced, which ranged from panic attacks to anxiety to feeling isolated. For her, the biggest thing was she wanted to find a good counselor, as well as find things on the internet that could work from her. And then we also had Ryan, who also became one of the members of the team. He graduated university in the midst of the pandemic, but his biggest thing was this idea of feeling like there was no one else going through what he was going through. Ryan's story is not unique because many other families were ripped apart during COVID who had to suffer with bereavement or long-term bereavement, which basically means that one of your family members is suffering from a long-term terminal illness and you are waiting for them to pass away. For him, the biggest thing that he needed support on was support on bereavement, support on family and being a carer, but also support on himself. And this was what was so important with MindMapper, this idea that the community could build a platform that worked for them. So where do we go from here? What is it that we have found out that could work for you? Here are MindMapper's top recommendations. And if you're listening into this, this is going to be really good for you to figure out what your next steps could be. If you're passionate about mental health and young people, what should you do and what should you be thinking about? So our main ones are really around, if you're wanting to work with the government, we believe that the government should build youth-led regulatory bodies, which could look like youth advisory boards, which are made up of youth advisors around the different countries. For us, it would be around the UK, that could focus on verifying organisations like the workplaces and educational institutions to work for them to create youth-friendly programmes. As well as that, we believe that the government should invest more money into greater diversity and inclusion, because we realise that within young people, there are so many different identities, and being able to access support that works for you. For instance, for me, as a Black young woman, I would need a very different tailored support to other people. When we think about professional services, we believe professional services to be more active and engaging. As Jan mentioned, things like TikTok, things like YouTube, professional services should do more to engage with young people in the way that suits them, going into their level. Where do you find young people and what do they like to engage with? Content. Professional services and actual support services should be breaking down what they do and basically making it easier to access services in digestible content. And as for universities, which many young people will be at, we believe that they should be creating buddy systems, as well as investing in signposting directly for those who are suffering from mental health issues at university and beyond, even when they have left. That's it from me. I have been so excited to be here with you, and I hope I've been able to capitalize this severity around mental health and how that affects young people. But it also helped. I've been able to show you that if you are a young person, you can have the tools that you need to create real change. It doesn't have to be anything massive. For me, it really started off as a university campaign and has now turned into a global company. But for you, it could be something completely different. So here's my challenge to you to take charge and move on from this to create real change in your environment. Thank you so much for having me.
Our lives have been transformed, but at the same time, we are becoming more and more creative. So I'm just going to go through this very quickly because these are the things that you already know, that the COVID has really disrupted our education and work worldwide. The number, 75.4% is the percentage of learners whose learning were affected because of school closures worldwide last year. As many as 140 countries have experienced school closures during the height of the pandemic last year. So that could include many of the countries where you come from, so you would know what I'm talking about. So what happened later? So remote learning became a norm, which I think many of you are probably very used to by now. So learning is not only digitized online, it's also getting more and more personalized and synchronized. But at the same time, I would like to bring your attention to another issue of inequality because of a lack of access to high-speed internet or just computers in general. I know probably all of you are lucky enough to have access to high-speed internet and really nice laptops and a lot of a really good environment for learning at home. But we also have to pay attention to, in a lot of developing countries or in the rural areas, many young learners probably don't have access to that, and that's something we have to pay attention to. So, okay, so we were talking about education and what's happening to work. So according to a McKinsey report, 25% is the extra percentage of workers who need to change their professions because of COVID. So really the pandemic has taken a toll on the employment situation around the world. So we are looking at that's the youth unemployment rate from 2008 to now. And you could see that the youth unemployment rate was the highest around 2009. That's at the because of the financial crisis worldwide. It was as high as 18%. So 1 out of 5 young people was unemployed. You could see the rate declining in the next 10 years. But then the year 2020, because of the pandemic, all the work was really canceled. And you could see that the unemployment rate was really higher than right after the financial crisis. So this is probably what some of you are also going through. But then with work environment, there is really fundamental change. So as many of the speakers have mentioned, that remote work has really become a norm. And there are some trends that have existed before the pandemic, including remote learning remote work, e-commerce, and automation of work. So these were existing trends, but they have really been accelerating as a result of the pandemic. And here's the screen grab I'm showing you. It's an online a webinar that I hosted in May. So this is a topic on working from home for Taiwan. How do we make it work? And we were hosting this event with the CTO of Microsoft Taiwan and chairman of Porsche Taiwan, as well as a entrepreneur coach from Germany. So there's one thing that really intrigued us. So last year, for people who live in Taiwan, we were like living in a parallel universe from the rest of the world because as the rest of the world were experiencing lockdowns and working from home, last year, Taiwan really didn't experience a lot of that. So people were still going to work, going to school. And actually last year, when the pandemic hit last summer, I believe, there was an article for our English website. We were talking about actually the success of containing COVID in Taiwan could be impeding digital transformation because many of the companies didn't feel the need to transition to hybrid work or remote work. I think even until early this year, many companies were reluctant to even consider transforming to hybrid work or remote work. I think many of them were forced to think about it only this May when there was level 3 alert. But I was surprised to learn that even then, there were so many companies who were kind of just telling the workers, you have to be present at work. Which is something that I really think is a huge challenge for the companies and the people here, because the world is changing, and I believe that for the businesses to be the business of the future, they have to change as well. So what other new trends are emerging in other countries? is what I'm seeing that there is great resignation. That's what I've been reading, especially in the US. I think that was about a month ago. After spending 1 year or even over that period of time working from home, many people, as high as 40% of all workers have either resigned or have been contemplating changing professions or just resigning and to pursue a second or third career because they realize this is really not what they want to do. You know, there are a lot of engineers who have been spending all their waking hours coding or, you know, people doing their tedious job and they realize that, okay, this is really not what I want to do. I want to do something else. So as many as 4 out of 10 people have resigned. I don't know what's the case in Taiwan. I don't imagine that would be the case. And so there are also a lot of new experiments with work. So I think in a lot of places, for example, Iceland and Finland, they have introduced a shorter work week, 36 hours or even 32 hours a week. So that would be maybe 4 or 3.5 days a week, because they realize that if you could be productive, you really don't have to spend so much time at work. Either it's at home or at the company. And hybrid workplace is also something that's been introduced. So for example, so today is a hybrid conference. We have people attending in real life, but we also have people attending online. So actually we've been experimenting in our company. We sometimes would have meetings, but we wouldn't have everybody present in the conference room. We will have some people joining us online. Okay. So, okay, I don't have so much time, so I'm just going to tell you that there's change of professions as a result of the pandemic. There is going to be higher demand for healthcare workers and tech professionals, which is why we have to have more creativity and coming up with new professions, creating new positions for ourselves. For example, this young woman, she is teaching at the University of the West Indies. She is saying that we have a responsibility to use new digital platforms to speak in favor of equitable healthcare, equality for all minority groups, and hold our leaders accountable to higher standards than before. And that's the responsible that's in all of your hands. Because I think former Vice President Chen also talked about how we are all interconnected. So I'm going to share with you some stories that we have covered in Taiwan. So we are witnessing that the job vacancies open to new graduates it experienced a minor decline this year because of the level 3 alert, and the number was 14%. That's according to a job-seeking website. But I'm going to share with you some more uplifting stories. It's a cover story we did in July, and the story is called COVID Graduates. Before my coworkers started their reporting of these stories, we had the rather pessimistic assumption that people are going to be pretty grim. They're going to be really maybe hopeless. Maybe they have a lot of anxiety. Maybe they will be just really resigned because they're unemployed. But instead, we are really seeing a lot of positive stories. For example, this young woman, Guo Ruoting, she is 25 years old. She really is a good example of showing vigilance, self-reliance, and openness. So she had a low-paying job before the pandemic. So even during the level 3 pandemic, she was able to go online, retrain herself, and become a lecturer for a digital platform, and that really pays better salaries, and she has also been happier as a result. Another story that's also very inspiring is Wang Ruolan. She is 22 years old, just graduated from university this year. She was studying nursing, nursing at the Taipei Medical University. So it's a study to become a nurse. And she, her graduation this June, after that, her father was, I remember my coworker was sharing the story, because she wanted to become a nurse right after graduation this year. But her father was not a fan of the idea, because at the time, the hospitals were really not overcrowded, but people would consider it like a very risky place to be. So the father, I think he said, why don't you just wait a couple of more months or wait a year? But she believed that I need to work at a hospital because because I am very much needed. So I'm using this story to exemplify that the young generation and the COVID graduates, they really have a sense of justice. They have a sense of responsibility, and they're also very pragmatic. They want to use their skills to help people when the time is right. So it's another graph to show you that the COVID graduates of Taiwan, when around the time they were born, Taiwan's economy was performing really well, but maybe around their 10 years of age, they experienced the September 21st earthquake, and that was a huge devastation for Taiwan. And by the time they graduate from university, the COVID hits. So you would think that the COVID graduates would be really depressed, but on the contrary, we're seeing that they're actually more resilient than many of us could imagine. And I would like to echo Meg in stressing that mental health is very important. So I have quoted from this scholar, Carol Dweck. She was talking about fixed mindset and growth mindset. So yes, I really think it's very important among a time of anxiety to believe that things can change, things can improve, and things can be made better. And I know it's very difficult when you think that people around you are all moving ahead, they're all doing things, and sometimes you will feel that you're kind of behind and you will be too hard on yourself. I just want to tell you that just give yourself some time and don't be too hard on yourself, and just have empathy and patience. All right, so I'm going to take a quote from the cover story that we did on the COVID graduates. They say that the pandemic doesn't kill us, it only makes us stronger. And that's the takeaway I would like to share with you. So last but not least, a little information about me. This is, if you scan this QR code, you can access our weekly newsletter. I invite all of you to do that and to check out Commonwealth Magazine's English website from time to time. We publish our newsletters every week on Tuesday. We're also on LinkedIn. So I would like to encourage you to do that. And thank you all for your attention today, and thank you for coming to Kaohsiung. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for your informative insights.
With insight from our 4 panelists, hopefully we've been able to gain a preliminary understanding of existing pandemic developments and future trends. Next, let's hear from youth here today about how the pandemic has impacted the youth of their countries. I already know the next stage will be incredible. I'd like to remind our online audience again that if you can share your thoughts, experiences, and insights on the Global Youth Trends Forum Facebook, that would be wonderful. And now, let's first welcome Antoine Ansach from France. Please give him a round of applause.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today on stage. Yes? Yeah, it's better. Thank you. I'm from France, and I'm going to talk to you about the situation in my country very briefly. So in terms of number, France have 5,000 cases per day, 5,000 new cases of COVID-19 per day, which means that in 3 days, France will have the same number of cases that Taiwan has since May, which is a very bad thing. In France, we are not forced to have the vaccine. It's highly recommended, and we can choose the vaccine we want by selecting the center we want to get vaccinated. 60% of the population is fully vaccinated right now in my country. As for the youth, the young people, there's a few things that I would like to mention. There's good thing about them, especially about the education, because I'm on the group of education and learning. The first one is that having online classes is good because students don't need to move from their home, and apparently they like it. But to be honest, they also say that they lose contact with their friend and their classmate, and that's one of the reasons that cause depression and anxiety, among others. So to palliate, to evacuate, they escape on social networks such as TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, and it makes them even more depressed. So they want to evacuate, but it's worse. The former Vice President Chen talked about the early deployment in Taiwan and the cooperation the government is having from the population. In France, it's totally not the case because our national sport is to disobey the government. So when the French government say, stay home, French people go out. That's one of the reasons we have lots of cases in France, sorry. He talked about transparency, and the government in France didn't have so much. They just say to us, wear the mask, without explaining why, without explaining what would be the consequences, and it's part of why the situation degenerates a bit in France. Plus, the government say one day wear the mask, and the next day don't wear the mask. So this is the few things I wanted to share with you. Thank you for listening, and well, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Antoine. Thank you very much for the insights. And now let's welcome the second speaker, Ms. Lu Yanqi from Malaysia. A round of applause for Ms. Lu.
So, hi everyone, my name is Yanqi and I'm from Malaysia. So, it is really an honor to be able to stand on this stage to share to you guys about what happened in my country during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, I did not go back to Malaysia since 2 years ago when the COVID-19 started. And I still remember the last time when I reunited with my families was during the Chinese New Year on last year, where all of us can still share food, sitting on the same table, chit-chatting without wearing a mask, and even celebrating every special days, physically and together. And everything changed since COVID-19 became the nationwide pandemic in our country. You know what? COVID-19 in Malaysia is like dancing tango. 2 steps forward, 1 step backward, and then 3 steps forward again. Seeing the number rising up and down, really like riding on a roller coaster, and situation became even worse during 4 months ago when our daily cases have hit 10,000 in a day, which was a new record for us. And this has forced the government to announce the extension of lockdown, but this time will be without a limit of date. So a lot of Malaysians, especially those whose financially is very strict, and especially those who have lost their loved one during the pandemic, they started to feel hopeless day by day. And they are struggling, depressing, and suffering because they can't see an end of this crisis. And there was also a sudden increase in the suicide rate in our country, which is an average of 3 cases in a day, and this was really heartbreaking. And now, I just want to share about how Malaysians went through this together. Without initiating by the government, the Malaysian people themselves, they started a campaign called as White Flag Campaign. This campaign was started by a random guy on social media who urged the people, if you are in desperate need of help and assistance, please, you can just hang a white flag in front of your house as a sign to get help. Don't feel shy and don't even give up on your own life. We care for each other and we can help each other. So this white flag campaign brings a new hope to Malaysia. As we all know, white flag is like a sign of defeat. But here in Malaysia, all of us, some neighbors, when they noticing a white flag hanging in front of someone's house, they started to help each other. Restaurants started to provide free meals to those in need and even create food bank. And some apps were even created to link those who need help with those who can provide help. So this white flag campaign indeed was a new hope for Malaysia, and it also showcased the beauty of Malaysia, of how we as one family can help each other regardless of skin color. And it's also showcased the unity of Malaysia to fight this pandemic together. And today, I was very grateful to see the number of cases have been go down to below 10,000. And I hope that in one day in the future, we can finally take off our masks and celebrate the day when COVID-19 became a history. And that's all for my sharing. I hope our stories inspired you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yanqi. Thank you very much. Next up, we're going to welcome the youth leader from Mexico, Valeria Villanueva. Please come on the stage and give her a round of applause, everybody.
Hi everyone, I am very pleased to be here. So the panorama in Mexico is kind of similar to the one in France. We are disobeying the government, but a good thing that is happening in our country is that the young generation is getting together. We are trying to overcome this pandemic situation by hosting a lot of virtual events. So right now, social media is our great ally. And despite that we have like 10,000 cases per day, and the young population is getting like very sick. But despite that, there are many organizations that are trying to work together with young leaders. So one of these organizations is Enseña por México. The English name is like Teach for Mexico. This organization is giving a lot of online training for young students to get more skills for their job. So they, because our rate of unemployment is very high right now, because we don't have enough jobs for the population. But this organization is trying to keep young students engaged so they don't feel hopeless, right? So Enseña por México is giving a lot of trainings, and also they launch a platform for parents of young students. So we as parents could help our kids to learn better, because since all the education is online, we are trying to help. So COVID-19 is bringing Mexican leaders together to overcome our pandemic situation, and hopefully we will learn better and we will overcome stronger out of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And next, let's welcome Ryotsuji Uchi from Japan.
A round of applause for Ms. Uchi.
Hello everyone, I'm Ryotsuji Uchi and I'm from Japan. Today I'm honored to be on the stage to briefly share the COVID-19 situation and how it affected the youth in Japan. So first of all, over these past 3 months, actually the COVID-19 situation in Japan has been better due to the Tokyo Olympics finishing in August 2021, sorry. In my perspective, I think this Olympics was the biggest catalyst that caused COVID-19 situation in Japan to take turn for the worst. So on the surface, Tokyo Olympics seemed successful and safe. All the athletes from different countries were given a chance to be active in sports. They won medals, and the whole atmosphere was covered with enthusiasm. Seemingly, this Olympics closed successfully. However, I would say that this event was built under the sacrifice of youth. So a year ago, in March 2020, the Japanese former Prime Minister said the Tokyo Olympics should be held in perfect form as a proof that humanity has defeated Corona. Hearing this and then seeing a rising number of cases, I wondered to myself that when did we defeat Corona? The government had used this concept of defeating Corona as a reason to forcibly hold the Olympics. And as a result of this, the COVID-19 cases rose up to over 10,000 per day. With a rising number of cases, Japanese school students, including junior high school, their school events such as school trips and a sports festival were canceled. So the Japanese youth questioned why it is okay to invite people from different countries to come to Japan, but it is not allowed for those students to do school events. These are considered precious memories for them. So I'm not criticizing Tokyo Olympics itself, well actually, and I was also the one excited to watching the Japanese football national matches. But however, there should be an understandable explanation for those who had their enjoyable and memorable time for possibly taken by this COVID. So this was all about the COVID situation and how it affected youth in a negative way with the Olympics. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Today we have so many youth representatives from around the world. Now next, let's welcome Ashio from Burkina Faso. Thank you so much.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or if I may say, hello and welcome all of us in this forum. My name is Tapsova Ashilwenya, or you can call me Ashil to make things easier, or Ajati in mentoring if you prefer. I come from Burkina Faso in West Africa, and I'm a master's student at National Taiwan University in the Department of Civil Engineering. And for me, it's a great pleasure and an honor to be here and have this opportunity to share with you how things goes in Burkina Faso. And talking about how is the COVID pandemic in Burkina Faso and how it affects youth, I want to say, like, personally, I think that things are okay right now. And the COVID-19 pandemic is under control in Burkina Faso and most of African countries. And actually, if you take the statistic from the CORUS, which is like the Center for Operation and Disease Control in Burkina Faso, you can see that actually we have two peaks basically in our country. And the first one was last year on December, because like we have the end of year festivities, and back home, youth know how to party, and we really party at the end of the year. So like the number just flies, and then, but after that, numbers went down. And if you look to the press release this week, we have roughly about 10 to 15 new cases a day. So it's kind of okay in our country. And actually, what I want to say, like, it's about numbers. things are okay. But if you're wondering, how is the vaccination rate? It's a pity to say that numbers are still low. And thing is, actually, you know, even those who believe that after death we go to heaven don't want to die. So when vaccination is the only way out of this pandemic, I think it should be a fair distribution of vaccine doses for all the countries. And to conclude a conclusion, I just conclude, I want to say that COVID-19 is not just a pandemic, it's not just a virus. It's in fact the highlighter of our social issues and problems we are facing in our world. Today mostly we are talking about COVID, right? But COVID isn't the only disease we are facing right now. And it isn't the only global challenge. We have like racism and things like that, and many things other to talk about. And COVID just put everything like a light, and we know how it is. And what I want to say is, actually, in solving this problem of COVID, my call for action is that no people, no country shouldn't be left behind in solving this situation of COVID-19 and other challenges coming behind. And if there is one very last thing I want to say, like after all this, is I hope all of us can enjoy this forum and find the best outcome possible in this forum. And thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks.
Thank you for your sharings. Last but not least, let's welcome Kenya Callier from Belize.
Hello, my name is Kenya Colliard. I come from Belize. I'm currently a master's student at National John Jay University. My discussion today, what I'm going to share with you is how COVID-19 has affected youths in Belize. And I'm going to look particularly in the areas of education based on analysis that I've conducted with the youth department in Belize. So one of the areas that we have seen, we have noticed that at high schools and the tertiary levels, we have seen significant decrease in student enrollment. So many schools have experienced dropout rates at a high rate, especially at these two levels, and there is an association between both financial difficulties and most of the youths turning to early employment to assist their parents amidst this economic crisis. One of the second issues is an increase in teenage pregnancies, and this is mostly also seen at the secondary and the early tertiary levels. One of the reasons, based from what was collected by the youth department, is that most of these young girls have too much free time, and being out of schools, we have seen an increase in this issue as well. The third difficulty is a significant increase in youth crime and violence, especially in the cities. For this past month, it has been a very sad month for Belize, as we have lost 8 of our youths to gun and gang violence. Being at home rather than being at school is actually contributing to the recruitment in gangs, and also innocent victims in areas where gun and gang violence is most prevalent. One of the 4 difficulties is many youths have found themselves coping with high levels of stress due to the reason that they have to do schools online rather than being face-to-face. And we come from a developing country where resources like online devices are very limited. So 2 of our economical areas, both tourism and agriculture, has been drastically impacted by COVID-19, and this have reflected in these challenges that we have been facing with our youth. So up to current, Belize has about 294 new cases, an average of 198 cases per day, and we have lost over 427 people to COVID-19. And these are only some of the surface issues, but COVID-19, as we know, has impacted the world. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's thank all of them for sharing their country situations and helping everyone understanding better about the current situation. We can find similarities and differences between different
Yeah, my
countries.
mic and stuff works, I believe.
And next, I would like to invite our 4 panelists to come onto the stage because we're gonna ask them for their feedback and suggestions. All right, thank you so much. And also we have Ms. Owen and Ms. Meg still with us online, joining us online.
Please be seated. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Chen, my first question goes to you. Today we talk about COVID and its impact on global youth, and you've heard so many different cases from different youth representatives. Do you see any common stories or different statistics around different countries that you would like to share?
I think that different countries have different scenario, and in the countries where the government is more transparent and more willing to do to help the people, then the situation will be better. And I think there's another thing for the successful containment of COVID-19 in Taiwan is we learned from the SARS outbreak in year 2003. So we are lucky we learned the lesson, and then we know how to improve our epidemic prevention. And many countries, they don't have this kind of experience. That's the reason why the government at the very beginning are not so ready to have a good response to the COVID-19. But I think the most important thing is this, we have to help each other, and global solidarity is very important. Just now from the Burkina Faso, I think that for the vaccine immunization, we definitely have to help each other and to promote this global solidarity to help the country in need is very important. And there's no country can be left out in this global health network. I thought we have to help each other.
Oh, great conclusion. Yeah.
Exactly, just like what you said, one world, one health, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And now maybe we can invite some suggestions from Ms. Owen from Australia, who's joining us online right now.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I hope that you can hear me. I've found it really moving hearing all the young people sharing their country situations. So thank you so much for doing that. And I think there are some very strong themes, as the previous speaker has mentioned, about inequality, and some of the themes that Meg picked up in her speech around mental health and well-being and the really serious challenges that young people are facing. I think one of the things, and what's great about the forum here today, is the opportunity for you to genuinely work together on some of these ideas. And, I think often we think we've got to go and start something or kind of start all over again ourselves. But as Meg and her team have shown, there's many tools that exist that we can adapt, and I'm sure people like Meg, who is obviously a superstar young entrepreneur, would be very happy to help other people work out how to do what she's done, and also to share her platform, which I'm pretty sure could become global pretty quickly, Meg. So the mindset that I would love us to have is of collaboration and kind of creating together. That's how we're going to get through this, and not just through this, but as one of the speakers rightly said, address many challenges that we're going to face together across the globe.
Thank you, Ms. Owen. Thank you very much for the insight. Now I would like to invite Ms. Wamithi to share with us your thoughts. Oh.
What you said.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Brilliant. I was just saying, Dan, I would love to take you everywhere with me. Thank you so much for your kind words, but also so proud of every single young person who stood up on that stage to share their truth and, you know, explain and express and give us an insight of what's going on in their fellow countries. I think COVID-19 has affected us all so much to the point that we often forget that it's been a global issue. I can say particularly for the UK, it almost feels like an isolated thing that only happened in the UK until you start to speak to other people and you're like, wow, this thing really did affect the whole world. I think some of the things I wanted to just pick up on was a few of the young people said about the fact that it highlighted some of those social issues that already existed. And we definitely saw that 2020 was the year of the mix. Everything from, you know, racism to social injustices around, you know, social economic backgrounds, around social class, around nationalism, and all of those things really came to the forefront and asked us all to question ourselves around what is actually really important, but also what type of society do we want to live in the future. We also recognize that young people were very much the generation that didn't want to just sit back and not take action. We saw a lot of young people, especially environmentalists, take to the stage and, you know, use their voices to educate those around. I think one of the things I definitely wanted to express today is this idea that it's not just on young people to make this change. A lot of you probably in the audience are feeling very overwhelmed. You know, you have to figure out what you want to do in your life. You have to go through those life transitions and figure out actually how do you become the right adult that you want to become in the future. And then to top it off, because we live in a world where, you know, we see everything and we can access information so quickly, it almost feels so overwhelming because you can't even just look after yourself, you want to look after the rest of the world. I just want to tell you that actually in order to be a youth leader, you need to put yourself first. There is no way you can pour out of an empty cup. And although it's about creating change, it's about figuring out your expectations and what you can do. And just to reiterate, as Jan said, that collaboration is going to be so key. So I want you to look at the other person sat next to you, and I just want you to wave, because these are all your team. Every single person in this room right now is your team. And there's someone in there that you're going to be able to collaborate and do incredible work with. And that's why we talk about network and being able to network really, really well, because you never know who you're sat next to who can help you create that real change.
Oh, couldn't agree more.
True. Everybody is your team. And now, the last but not least, our team member, Ms. Liu. Would you like to share with us your thoughts?
Okay. Thank you for not forgetting me. Okay.
No way.
I must say that I was very inspired by the 5 or 6 young people from the audience sharing your stories and your thoughts. And also there is some critical thoughts. I really appreciated that. And I think I could really resonate with what Ashil said. Because he said that pandemic is just one problem, but it helped bring to the fore that there's so many underlying issues in that's all around us. The climate crisis, inequality, and mental health problems. And I would also like to say how much I appreciate Meg's presentation. She was talking about how the young generation really, okay, there's some worrying trend. Young generation experience a lot of mental anxiety, but I actually think that's a good trend, because it tells us that the young population are really becoming more and more aware of the importance of mental health, whereas my generation and older generations might not even think there's an issue at all. So they say, you probably just have to relax, you're thinking too much. But a mental issue is really a health crisis that more of us need to pay attention to. And I'm glad somebody pointed that out.
Thank you.
It's true. Thank you very much, Ms. Liu, and all our panelists for your valuable insights. And next, we will have the Q&A session.
Yes.
Yes, everyone is welcome to raise your questions to our experts here on the stage and also joining us online. So now the floor will be open for questions.
I think we're just so humbled to be able to gather different stories, to have so many youth representatives from 23 different countries together.
Yes.
But right now, the floor is all yours. We have 10 minutes of Q&A session.
Yes.
So if you just want to leave a comment or just share your personal stories in written formats, you're also welcome to write down your comments on our live stream. But right now, we have three. Power. Okay, Dr. Chang points to you. Hi, the girls.
Yes.
In my right-hand side.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chen Chien-Jen from
hi. Yes,
National
sorry.
University, and I would like to echo the same things that I would like to make sharing, because I feel that in this society, especially under COVID-19 pandemic, many people do have some mental issue. Maybe it's not like a problem, just want to talk or sharing with others, but we don't have the way to do that. So it really made me feel that, wow, really there is someone cared about the things, and make me feel that, wow, we can have the way to assess the help and to find someone to talk with. I think that is a really fantastic and really great things. So it's not like a question, it's more like a comment, and I want to share that how fantastic you have done, and it really made me inspired a lot. Thanks.
Thank you.
For the girl behind him.
Yes.
Hi.
Team 3.
So, hi, I'm Zhang Qianyu, or you can call me by my English name, Ren. And thank you to the various speakers. And I have a question covers social innovation, education, and mental health for all the speakers above there. And I've noticed that the social isolation has led to an increase in time spent on social network sites, and with people interacting than ever with the social media portrayal of a person as opposed to a person themselves. And more than ever, we are comparing ourselves with our peers online, and we are comparing the way in which they are experiencing the same state of home confinement. So, and there's a phenomenon comes up to me. It's called the upward social comparison atmosphere. An upward social comparison atmosphere occurs when an average person in a society compares themselves to someone they perceive to be the superior. So, of course, people tend to only show the foreign side of their life in the social media. So, but it's really pitfalls of jealousy and envy are easy to fall prey to. And anyone who says they aren't probably are not being really forthcoming. So my question here is, so do you think this kind of phenomenon is possible to be solved or decrease the rate through the education system?
And who you're directing your question to?
You're asking.
So is it possible this kind of so the upward social comparison, this kind of phenomenon can be decreased or decrease the risk by the education system?
Yes. Whom are you addressing to?
Ms. Zeenat Wamithi.
Meg.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ren. What a great question and what a great insight that you provided, because I think a lot of us in that room will be able to say that we've definitely felt under pressure to feel like our lives haven't been that great, especially during lockdown. You would see how productive other people were, and you're thinking, God, I've literally just sat down and watched like 8 different Netflix series back to back. I didn't work out. Lockdown put on more weight than I lost, and other people seem to have picked up new skills and built businesses, and there's just me trying to keep my stuff together. But I absolutely agree. This is something that we actually teach at the schools that we work with, and we call it around social media diet. And the whole idea is being able to be taught the right way to interact with social media. We're in a bit of a paradox in the way that social media can help so many people in terms of your mental health. The first 2 speakers spoke about the fact that lots of people are using social media to educate themselves. TikTok and YouTube have opened up a world of, beginners and tutorials around things. But in the same way, like you said, there are so much comparisons and things that can negatively impact your mental health. One advice I definitely have for young people is you cannot compare your life to someone's highlight reel. They only show you what they want you to see, and therefore you don't have the full amalgamation of what their life actually means, number one. Number two, something that really helped me and helped our young people during lockdown was create more content than you consume. If you're too busy creating content and the content that you want to see, you won't actually have the time to compare because you're so busy trying to put out the messages that you want to do. So something that we challenged everyone was, start posting stories, start posting things, and be as honest and open as you can on your platform, and actually use your platform as a way to set, as a role model for others to recognize that actually, for me, as you can tell, you probably follow me on social media. Today, I was absolutely honest about the fact that I looked terrible 5 minutes before I came on, and the fact that I was super tired because, I am not a superwoman, and this is what's really important. Part of education in the UK, just to finish it up, is we have something called PSHE, and I don't know if other, world educational systems have it, but PSHE is all around that soft skills. It's about teaching life skills. So, sex education will come under that, relationships will come under it, physical health and mental health will come under that. And I think if you don't have something like that already in your curriculum, I think it's really important that you come together with other young people that share the same interests and lobby your educational system, put your proposals down. One thing I learned is that you ultimately can control what happens in your schools, because without you, they can't flourish. It's much more about the student than it is about the school, because the student is what makes the school. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, yes, my school, my university, or my company needs more education around this, just write together a bit of your notes, actualize them, and put them towards the person that you need to, and find those people that you can connect with and collaborate to make that work for you. I hope that helped.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meg. Table 13. Could you perhaps share with us what's your name and where you're from, so we can get a better sense of you?
Hello, everybody. My name is Elma, and I'm from Belize. And well, it's not really a question, but more a statement, is towards Meg. I really enjoyed your talk, especially where you said that there's a lack of education of mental support in the UK. And the reason why I really enjoyed it is because I feel like the youths in Belize are also facing similar circumstances. And my biggest concern is, like, we're grown in a society where maybe even our parents are not aware of our mental struggles. And we're grown with a lot of having to keep in our mental struggles. So I remember, like, in high school, we have counseling, we have counselors, and if you're ever seen stepping into a counseling office, it's like you're going to be looked at as a joke, or your classmates might look down on you. And if you ever say something like, I am feeling really depressed, even worse. So people see mental challenges as weaknesses in our country. And I think that's one of the biggest issues now that COVID-19 is hitting the country and everybody's going on lockdown, is like, how are we supposed to help the younger generation? So it's not really a question, but maybe some suggestions on how you think we can make mental health more aware in our country, and how can we start developing support systems in our country, especially because we don't have much access to therapists or counseling sessions, or it's really looked down upon in our country.
I see. So it's a cultural and social context thing, maybe, and we can raise the awareness. So do we have any panelists who would like to give some suggestions on this topic and this issue? Maybe Dr. Chen?
In terms of awareness of mental health, how to build support system.
And seeing this care for mental health as normal in the society.
Okay. Well, basically, for the mental health issues, and I think that's three parts are very important. First one is yourself. You have to have a sense of this you will need to get this counseling and help. And just as mentioned by Meg, that everybody has to be aware of your mental condition and health status. And then you have to be to ask for help from others. And you just speak out and try to get any kind of help you can get. I think this is very important. And the third thing is that from the government point of view, I think that any government has to pay attention to this, how to take care of this mental health from the school, from the family, and also from the workplace as well. So I think this is a kind of integrated effort. And last thing I want to say is that I always put emphasis on the prevention of this and the problems of the mental health, rather than when it's getting worse, then the things will be much more difficult to handle. So how to promote this mental health is more important to prevent mental diseases.
Yeah, incredible insights.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. And maybe we can invite one last question. Yeah, from Table 10. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And in the afternoon, we will have some sub-group discussion. So just you can save your question later on for the afternoon. And now from Table 10.
Thank you, distinguished panelists. I just want to add on, since everybody was emphasizing, and I will take a cue from my Burkina Faso fellow friend. I didn't catch up his name, but he emphasized on existing challenges. I would like to emphasize that pre-pandemic, there were existing challenges. Post-pandemic, of course, the add-on challenge will be digital divide. And I come from a country which is a developing country, India. And the division is such that the people will have access to resources and the ones which will have no access to resources. So how will we overcome that? So that is an additional added layer which the pandemic has done it. And we in India, the policymakers have a bigger challenge to crystallize it and make or design a policy so that this division is actually, addressed to. Otherwise, we will have knowledge gap added again in India. And I would also like to, kind of give credibility to Miss Meg, because she's doing incredible work. I am studying in Taiwan, and I'm a doctoral student, in fact, a candidate, and I'm writing my thesis. And I know that I have not been able to go back home for more than 2.5 years or so. And anxiety or something like this is for real. Separation from family is very real. So it kind of gives you some kind of, isolation, that you're not being able to meet anybody. Sometimes you don't even meet friends or etc. So it's added up to your mental health condition. So what you are doing is absolutely incredible. And good luck. Keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. His name is Ashil. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. I think that's a wrap for our morning session. And thank you again for all the panelists and also joining us online, Ms. Owen and Ms. Wamithi. Thank you so much for your participation.
Yes, once again, we'd like to thank Dr. Chen, Ms. Liu, Ms. Owen, and Ms. Wamithi. On behalf of the organizers, we would like to offer our most sincere gratitude to all our participants here and distinguished guests, as well as our online and offline audiences. And now that concludes our morning session. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone. The second forum will be held on November 13th. That will be a Saturday. And also, it will also be live streamed online, so you can also join in again next time when we have this forum. So hope we will see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Everybody now just